Ooh, man, alright. So, guys, in this video we're going to be basically just going over a mini recap of what happened on March 8th. Because there was a lot of stuff that was announced on the Nintendo Direct. Some things bigger than others, obviously. And there's one big thing that everybody's talking about, and I will not be talking about it in this video because I feel like it's deserving of its own video. So we're going to be talking about that within the upcoming days. So today we're basically going to be talking about every single thing else. So if you came here, wanting some Super Smash Bros. Switch, speculation, rumors, things like that, this is not the video for that. I'll probably make a video over this weekend. Just depending on what's on my schedule, because I'm also hosting a Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament this weekend. So it's this weekend all of a sudden became extremely busy simply because Smash Bros. Was announced for the Switch. So we're basically going to be going over everything else. And so I'm on NintendoEverything.com. They have a pretty good recap over everything that happened on the Direct. So I'm recording this at around 7 o'clock, March 8th, p.m., so the Direct has been over for a couple hours. I've had dinner. People have probably already made about 60 videos per channel about the just the Smash Brothers announcement alone. So today we're gonna kind of dial it back and talk about everything but Smash Bros. So let's start with the Nintendo 3DS stuff, and then we'll talk about the Switch stuff and everything that was revealed. So, starting with the Nintendo 3DS, we got WarioWare Gold. I actually made 2 recordings for my predictions. The very first prediction video was after the failed attempt at a stream that I had. That'll probably be up for, I don't know, a couple more hours maybe, if it's not permanently on my channel. So in that recording, because I don't actually have access to it anymore, in that recording I talked about, potential stuff that they could have showed, and I brought up WarioWare just because I was talking about the Mario spin-off stuff, and obviously I don't have that on record. The only predictions, quote-unquote, video I have would be the first 10 minutes of the reaction one, because that video is about 45 minutes long. And only 30 of it was actually dedicated to the Direct itself. So the first 10 minutes or so is me talking about what I think is going to happen. And I did not mention WarioWare that time, unfortunately. But yeah, so basically, if you're familiar with what Nintendo is doing with the whole Mario Party thing, where you get the best 100 Mario Party games all on one game, that's basically what WarioWare Gold is. It's essentially 300 micro games from each of the different WarioWare games, franchises, whatever you want to call them, and it's all put onto one game for the 3DS. So that's essentially all WarioWare Gold is. I don't necessarily know all of the different micro games. I know some of the more modern ones. Some of the more older ones, I guess, the ones that are on like the Smash Bros. WarioWare stage, things like that. I know about those and how they function within the WarioWare franchise, but they did mention that there were new and old ones coming together for this edition of the franchise. So if you like mini games, something similar to Mario Party, then WarioWare Gold is definitely up your alley because it's like a rhythmic kind of game featuring Wario and his kind of cast of characters. So next up is Luigi's Mansion. And so when I saw this on the Direct, I thought it was a Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon remake, and then this actually, this kind of says otherwise. This says, the original Luigi's Mansion, which was a launch game for the GameCube in 2001, is coming to the 3DS. So it seems like that they're remaking the original Luigi's Mansion for the game. I'm pretty sure the Direct itself said Dark Moon, but I could be wrong. I haven't seen it in a couple hours, and I've been doing a whole lot since, so my memory is not the freshest. But we're getting a Luigi's Mansion take onto the 3DS sooner rather than later, within this year. And then this one kind of pegged me a bit. So it's a remake of Bowser's Inside Story, which was a Mario RPG game on the DS. So it's essentially it's a remastered version of Inside Story with basically a sub-story of Bowser Jr. It's kind of his point of view on the whole adventure itself, which is really, really interesting because, because Bowser Jr. wasn't even remotely in the game at all, from what I remember. So having him, A, not only introduced into the game, but B, have his own kind of sub-story is really, really interesting in my opinion. So, the graphics for this game actually did look like a brand new game. When I was watching it, I was like, is this a sequel to Inside Story, or is this actual Inside Story? Because the graphics did look different from what I remember the game on the Nintendo DS to look and feel like. And I talked to a friend afterwards too who said the exact same thing. So, I mean, Inside Story, just by the graphics alone, looks like a fresh new game. So I'm really interested to get my hands on the game too. Not to mention with Bowser Jr.'s sub-story. So, one thing that pegged me weird, though, was that the game comes out next year, 2019. That means that they're still going to be supporting the Nintendo 3DS up until at least 2019, which is kind of a big shock for me, because a lot of people, technically, the Nintendo 3DS was kind of dying off this year and last. Not a whole lot of good releases were coming out for it. I think one of the biggest releases that we got last year for it was Persona Q2, which we still have zero information on aside from the fact that it exists. And so with this coming out next year, it kind of pegs the question, how long are they going to keep the 3DS running? And so I guess that's a better topic for another video. But Persona Q2 essentially is supposed to be coming out this year, and to my surprise, they didn't talk about it. I just kind of figured they would because I didn't expect them to have anything else, on the conveyor belt for Nintendo 3DS titles. So this is coming out next year. And that kind of also did turn me off for the possibility of Switch's announcement. Because if they're still supporting the Nintendo 3DS up until 2019, then they'll more than likely also support the Nintendo 3DS version of Super Smash Bros. But I mean, obviously that wasn't the case by the end of the Direct. So this really did bug me, just because it's 2019. It really, made me rethink about my certainty towards Smash Bros. Actually being announced and coming out this year. But to my surprise, that still managed to be true even with this 2019 release of a 3DS game. So next up is Dylan's Dead Heat Breakers. Now, I didn't play the original Dylan's game, although it looked amazing. It really did look like a tower defense RPG that I would have enjoyed. And then Dylan's appearance in Smash 4 as an assist trophy, I'm pretty sure that's how he was in the game. What was really cool too. So we've also had characters turn from assist trophies to characters. An example being Little Mac. So when I saw Dylan's Dead Heat Breakers being announced, I was like, okay, well, this basically confirms that Dylan is going to be in the next Smash Brothers. Now, granted, I'm not sure necessarily how true that is too, essentially just because we got another really big title that was also ported to the Switch, which I'll talk about soon, that has way more likelihood of getting on the Switch due to popular demand than Dylan does. But Dylan himself would still be a really cool character to see in Smash regardless of his popularity. Now, essentially, Dylan's popularity is kind of less than equal to the Ice Climbers. Now, the Ice Climbers are essentially only popular because of their appearance in Smash Bros. Beforehand, they only had a handful of games, and none of which really were relevant. So when they got their Smash debut, everyone was like, "Oh yeah, they exist." So Dylan is kind of in the middle ground between that. Everyone knows he exists, but they don't know he really exists until they see him. So yeah, Dylan being in Smash as an actual character is kind of weird just because of his relevance. But I'll talk about that in the Smash Bros. Video. So next up is Detective Pikachu, which is really, really cool because this game actually did... what they showed for this game in this Direct actually did turn me on a lot more for the game, because essentially I just thought, that the game was going to be a cute take on puzzle or mystery with Pokemon, just something cute. But the kind of humor that Detective Pikachu, like the character himself, had, it really did, quote-unquote, resonate with me. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Detective Pikachu is going to come forth, I guess, through the Nintendo 3DS. Now, I do agree that Detective Pikachu and most of these Nintendo 3DS titles could very well have been Nintendo Switch titles, and it probably would have been better for them to be Switch titles. Namely Detective Pikachu, Luigi's Mansion, and WarioWare Gold. Those probably would have been better as Switch titles, because I know Inside Story has some pretty wonky control systems that utilize the bottom screen that the Nintendo 3DS supports and the Switch obviously doesn't. So that one probably would have been better suited for strictly for the 3DS. But I mean, I don't know anything about Dylan's two games to know, essentially, about whether or not they need to utilize the bottom screen, but I know that Detective Pikachu, Luigi's Mansion, and WarioWare Gold could have easily have been on the Switch. So, whether or not these games, I mean, Detective Pikachu, Luigi's Mansion, and WarioWare, I'm not necessarily sure how well they'll actually do, considering that the 3DS is dying and people have probably sold their DS to pay for a Switch. They've probably sold a lot of their games and things like that too. So, I mean, I don't necessarily know how relevant these games are going to be. And essentially, it probably just would have been better for them to be Switch titles. But I'm not complaining that they're 3DS because I still have a working 3DS. But if you're one of the few people who sold your 3DS expecting it to die off, I'm sorry, buddy, but you still got another year and a half, if not longer. So moving on to the more interesting, quote-unquote, stuff is obviously the Switch. Now, again, I'm not going to be talking about Smash Bros. Just because of how big that is in and of itself. So let's start here at the bottom. Again, I'm on NintendoEverything.com. I'm just kind of reading through their list. So at the very bottom of their list, they have ARMS Test Punch. Now this is essentially a demo that's going to be running for 3 days on the Nintendo eShop, starting on March 31st. So if you've never played ARMS and you don't have it, and you kind of have just eyeballed it from the sidelines like I have, then getting this demo on March 31st for a couple days will be pretty beneficial, because I mean, you don't have to get the game. I mean, it's just a nice little demo. And ARMS has pretty much been compared to Splatoon in terms of competitiveness. But I mean, obviously you're punching instead of shooting ink at each other. So next up is the ARMS US and Canada Online Open Tournament. What I believe was actually said on the Nintendo Direct was just that, the online services for ARMS in the US and Canada tournament stuff will be available. So that's a big thing. If you're an ARMS player and you want to play in online tournaments in US and Canada, then by all means you can do that by March 18th. So good for you. Speaking of March 18th, Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition finally got the release date, also being on oh wait, no, this is May 18th, my bad. So May 18th, that's what? That's summer? That's the end of summer? Or no, excuse me, that's the end of spring, I believe it is. So May 18th is going to be pretty fun, because I've admired Hyrule Warriors. I got it originally for the Wii U, and then I never got any of the DLC or anything. But since we're getting a definitive edition, I'm really looking forward to this for the Switch, because I don't have to pay for the DLC. So, and taking it on the go too is a lot more fun. I mean, I can't just subconsciously knowing how much of a convenience the Switch has been is pretty drastic. Like, I'm homeschooled, so I don't get out of the house much, but I still find myself using the mobile mode of the Switch more than I do the actual TV mode. I mean, part of that is due to my TV always turning on and off, because it's set up on a dresser and not like proned into the wall. So I get more out of mobile for the while, but as soon as I get like a stand for the wall to connect my TV to, I'm probably going to be using the TV mode more often. And then next we got Undertale, and this kind of shocked me. If you guys watched my reaction, it kind of seemed like I'm huge in the franchise, and I'm not. I know a few people who are involved in the Undertale community and how obsessed they are with it, and frankly, it kind of scares me. It's like Minecraft all over again. But I've always admired the take on the game, because it really strikes that Mother and an Earthbound kind of feel, while still being a good JRPG. Or RPG or JRPG, whichever you want to call it. So I'm looking forward to Undertale more for the gameplay than I am the actual story, just because, you know, I don't want to get involved in a community like that. But I mean, I'm just speaking for what I've experienced and not necessarily the community as a whole. But I'm looking forward to the game just because I've never tried it, and I know it's an RPG, and so I'm a fan of classic RPGs. So Undertale is probably up my alley. I more than likely won't get it though if it's more than like $15, because that's kind of my limit for indie games. Not that I'm enforced on the limit, that's just kind of my personal preference. So next up is Little Nightmares, and this game kind of freaked me out just because of like the character models for all the enemies and stuff that you're moving around with. It looks like an amazing puzzle game, like a horror and puzzle like mix, I guess, hybrid. So it looks really, really cool. I just don't know if I can actually stomach it, because I don't think I could bear to go up against that chef guy. That's pretty. That's pushing my lines. So next is Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes. Now, this game looks a lot, it gives me a lot of Nier Automata feels, and recently, I guess there's been a surgence in Nier Automata, possibly due to Super Butterbuns doing a video on it, and so everybody's kind of buying it now. But that game in and of itself looks amazing, Nier Automata, and this game kind of gives me the feel of Nier, in terms of gameplay, not necessarily the style or character models or anything, but the kind of hack and slash feel that Nier Automata gives you. It looks like that this is what Travis Strikes Again is going to, is going to be resembling. I love how flashy that Travis Strikes Again is. I heard that the story mode is basically he goes into this video game and wants to clear out the bugs and stuff, and it's also 2-player, so this is possibly going to be one of my favorite Switch titles, simply because it's a multiplayer JRPG, or RPG hack and slash, whatever you want to call it. And in my opinion, there haven't been a whole lot of good, I guess, action-packed multiplayer games for the Switch. I mean, there's Sonic Mania, Hyrule Warriors, obviously, but that hasn't come out yet. So I've been looking forward to a game like Travis Strikes Again, and so I'm looking forward to its release later this year. Next up is Dark Souls Remastered. I've never played Dark Souls in my life, but I know a lot of people who have, and played the Elder Scrolls, played Skyrim, yada yada yada. And so I've been told I need to get Dark Souls, not essentially because I'd like it, but because it's just a good game. So I'm tempted. I'm really tempted to get Dark Souls, which launches on May 25th. There's also an amiibo figure which kind of does the praise the sun gesture. So I'm not gonna get the amiibo, but the game itself I may get. A really close friend of mine who I've grown up with ever since like 2nd grade, got the game because they were just recommended it, and got it and absolutely loves it. So they haven't been able to put it down, and since that person and I have really similar tastes in games, that kind of strikes me to get the game as well. But I'll probably just borrow it from them, and then they can borrow Xenoblade or something from me. But Dark Souls aside, next we have Sushi Striker. Now this game was actually leaked earlier this morning on Twitter. Somebody tweeted out the game case for this game, and everybody was like, "What is this?" Like, nobody expected this to be a thing, and neither did I. I didn't assume it was fake just by looking at it, because I mean it looked kind of too fake to be real, or no, it looked too real to be fake, if that makes sense. And it seems too random to be fake, if that makes sense. And it was also put together with the Mario Tennis Aces cover art, which gave us a look at some potential characters, which they did show off during the trailer. They didn't give like a direct character analysis of these characters, but we saw them playing. Rosalina and Luma and Chain Chomp, I believe, were the two. So I don't think Sushi Striker is going to be much of anything. It may just be, just another game that the Switch has been getting. But I mean, it looked pretty cool. I mean, it kind of gives me those feels of like those mobile games where you have to, get all of these pieces like in the same row, kind of like Tetris, but instead of Tetris being the object of reaching the top in an orderly fashion, it's kind of like once you get all these pieces together, like in Sushi Striker, you're trying to form all these pieces of sushi. and then you eat them to heal yourself or to deal damage. At least it looked like in Sushi Striker, and that's kind of what a lot of those mobile games kind of do too. You get all these orbs or whatever in the same color and in the same row, and then those orbs go away and turn into energy that you can either heal yourself with or hit your opponent with. I think there was a Doctor Who game like that forever ago. So next is South Park: The Fractured But Whole. And I never got what the title meant. I just always thought that it said the fractured butthole. But no, there's actually not there's an emphasis on butt, which kind of, in and of itself is funny. So it's the fractured, and then there should be a comma, butthole. So if you're big on South Park as in the show, then this is the game for you. I have a friend who's obsessed with South Park. He'll give me a 3-hour-long analysis on why season 6 was the worst season of South Park, or the best, or whatever it was. So he's looking forward to getting this, but he doesn't even have a Switch. So I may have to get it for him and just lend him my Switch for a weekend or something. But it's an RPG adventure game, and it's extremely offensive. So it sounds like it's up my alley, and it's going to be on the Nintendo Switch April 24th, which is next month, and I believe like 2.5 weeks. So yeah, that's it. Next up is Okami, and Okami, from what I heard, was like a bestseller in Japan. I don't think it really ever did well in the West if it was released in the West. Now, a friend of mine, when he saw the direct, because he saw it after it aired, and I sent it to him. I was like, "Bro, you gotta watch this." So he got to the Okami part, and he just kind of lost it. So I guess he played it or he watched it or something, and he's just a really big fan of it. But he seemed to be really, really into it. Although at the same time, then he was like, Detective Pikachu! And then he was like, nah, never mind, nobody cares about Detective Pikachu. So I don't know if he was just memeing over Okami or if he actually likes it. But regardless, it looks really, really good because it's, it's just a classic action-adventure game coming to the Switch, nonetheless. So it looks really good, really fun. I believe what I saw in the trailer, it kind of gave like a rhythmic feel. I could be wrong. Next up is Crash Bandicoot, and this kind of got my gears going as soon as this got on the... As soon as I saw this on the screen, because I was like, okay, now this is an actual Nintendo Direct. Like all these other releases are nothing. This is the real deal. So for those of you who don't know, Crash is essentially was on PlayStation for the longest time, I think. And Crash has always been one of those popular characters like Pac-Man and Sonic that, that is just a fan favorite and that everybody wants on a Nintendo system, solely for the fact of Smash Brothers, really. So because of the fact that Crash Bandicoot is now on the Switch, is now on a Nintendo console, the likelihood of him being in a Nintendo crossover, like Smash Brothers, is a lot more plausible. Now, a lot of people would argue and say, but Cloud Final Fantasy was never on a Nintendo console. And I was like, well, yeah, you're kind of right, because Final Fantasy VII wasn't on a Nintendo console, but there have been a lot of spin-off games on the Nintendo DS that featured Cloud in it. Now, was Cloud a main character in those games? No. He was just kind of like a side and support character that could grant you special powers and stuff, but I don't necessarily know why Cloud was put in Smash Brothers. At first I thought that he I thought that he was put in Smash Brothers because I thought he won the character roster thing, but no, that was Bayonetta. So, and Bayonetta even makes more sense than Cloud, disregarding the whole character ballot. What was that called? A ballot? But disregarding the whole character poll thing, because Bayonetta was getting all the remakes and stuff for the Wii U and then now the Switch. So Cloud honestly makes more sense to be the fan favorite character that won the poll than Bayo does. But regardless, the point being is that Crash Bandicoot is now actually plausible for Smash Bros. Outside the reasoning that was Cloud. So next is Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. So we're actually getting we're getting a Switch and a 3DS version of this game. Why they did not show the 3DS version with the 3DS stuff is beyond me. I guess they just thought that this was a game popular enough for its own spotlight with the Switch lineup, or they were just like, okay, we got to have at least like 10 Switch things. So let's put in Treasure Tracker here instead of the 3DS section. Either way, it's coming out July 13th. It's essentially the Captain Toad quote-unquote franchise now. It's basically just a Mario puzzle game featuring Toad as the main character. So it's not something, if puzzle games are up your alley and you just like the feel of Mario, then then Captain Toad is obviously up your alley. And again, you can get it for the Nintendo 3DS or your Switch. So if you don't have a Switch yet, or if you've already gotten rid of your 3DS because you thought it was going to die, then Treasure Tracker is nothing but convenient for you. Now, if you only have a Wii U, then just get the original. Then just get the original version. Now, next up is something that I was honestly really stoked for, is Octopath Traveler, because we haven't really gotten a whole lot of information about this game aside from the feedback survey trailer video, whatever you want to call it, in February, which was basically just talking about, yeah, we looked at your feedback and now we're adding in all these game mechanics. So that's it. And so in this trailer, or what they talked about in the Nintendo Direct for Octopath Traveler, is this: they revealed 2 of the 8 new characters. So now we actually have, I believe we have 4 of them. We have 4 out of the 8. I don't want them to reveal all of them before the game's released. I want to at least have 1 or 2 that's kind of left unknown, and the only way to kind of access them is to complete some of the other ones, if that makes sense. But essentially, I guess that kind of would, quote-unquote, ruin it, because then you'd have to grind through each character if you don't necessarily like them in order to play some. It's just however Square wants it to be, but they did reveal something really cool in this game that wasn't in the demo, to where characters can now take on different jobs and roles. So in the demo, you played as these 2 characters, Primrose and Alberic. Primrose was a dancer, and she could allure people into battle with her. I guess she uses magic more than anything, things like that. Alberic is a warrior. He can challenge NPCs, kind of like how Primrose can allure them. Each different character has their own different and each character has like their own overworld special ability, to where they can interact with NPCs in unique ways. So we got 2 more. We got an Aeropathy, I think that's how you pronounce it, or Aeroperthemia, I don't know. But essentially, it's you talk to them and you kind of get information about their lives and whatnot, and then you're able to, like buy stuff, or you're able to go to this new area, you're able to buy stuff for a cheaper price, things like that. And then they revealed another one, which was a merchant, I believe, and then you could buy and sell things from NPCs, which is really useful. I mean, I don't know why they're necessarily... Why it, I guess, should be a thing, because in the demo itself, there already was a merchant NPC that you can buy and sell stuff from. So being a character that enables you to buy and sell things from any NPC, I guess it's unique, and I guess it's quote-unquote convenient. But regardless, both look really cool. But they did reveal that that characters can now have two jobs. So Alberic and Primrose can now be a dancer and a warrior. They can be a dancer and a merchant. They can be a warrior and a merchant. Things like that. And it's just really unique because depending on like how you kind of customize your character with their jobs and roles, depends on how they're going to be affecting the enemies in battle and whatnot. So I'm really looking forward to Octopath Traveler, which was its final name. And it's also coming out on July 13th. And so when I saw that, I kind of flipped out thinking that it was June and only like 2 or 3 months away, but no, it's like 4. So I'm still stoked for it, regardless of how long I had to wait. I'm just essentially glad that we had to, that we got its release date. There's also like a full version of the game, or not a full version, but like a deluxe edition, to where you can get sound selection CDs and a replica coin that's based on the in-game currency. You can, I don't know how expensive that's going to be. That's probably going to be like $100, because most, deluxe edition things like that are that expensive, because the game's already $60, and then, the replica coin and the sound selection CDs are probably worth, $20 to $35. And so, that's that with Octopath Traveler. Next is Kirby Star Allies. They basically did what I thought they were going to do. They released DLC, quote-unquote DLC, but it's basically just a free update. With the cast from Return to Dreamland. And I don't know why, but it was like an hour before the presentation, and I just kind of had this thought come over me of, they're going to add DLC to Kirby Star Allies with Return to Dreamland. I don't know why I thought that, but they did. So you're basically whoever's playing as player 2, or if it's the CPU, can gain control of King Dedede, Bandana Waddle Dee, or Meta Knight, just like in Kirby Return to Dreamland, which was one of the key factors of why that game was so good on the Wii, is because you could play as your enemies, your friends, and and a Waddle Dee. So seeing them come back in Star Allies is a huge plus for me. And then also playing as old characters like Rick, Kine, and Koo, did I read that right? Rick, Kine, Koo, Marks, and Gooey are also all available as allies as well. So I'm really stoked for that, because then that means that we're probably going to be getting more and more amiibo, I guess, compatibility that you could, I guess, synergize with Star Allies. So, for example, like you could put like Pikachu or Mario on your Switch, and then boom, Mario and Pikachu are on your roster for a minute and a half, or maybe 3 minutes or something. But that will be really, really cool if they enable amiibo capability like that. So that game actually comes out in 20 days, less than 3 weeks, March 28th. So next is they announced that there's going to be a Mario Tennis Aces pre-launch online tournament. So they said that more details will be released in the future, but basically a free demo is coming out soon, and then for a limited time, people can try out tournament matches on the demo before it participates. So in order to do that, you just got to download it from eShop whenever it releases. So then we actually got information about Mario Tennis Aces, and oh boy. See, I kind of predicted that they'd spend the most amount of time with Mario Tennis Aces, and I was right. Just because they did kind of make it a subtitle for the Direct. Although, I mean, by all means, they could have named it Octopath and special details on Octopath Traveler. I don't know why they said Mario Tennis Aces. It's weird. Maybe they wanted to turn people off, for the Smash Brothers announcement. But we got two new characters and a lot of information about modes and special game gimmicks, gameplay mechanics, things like that. An online multiplayer, a story mode. The two characters I mentioned earlier, Rosalina and Chain Chomp. There may have been another one, but they didn't actually go into depth about those characters. They just showed them. Then there's a huge Splatoon 2 update coming out in April, which gives a lot of new gear. I think it was 100 and more stage rolling out, and then a new rank, which is higher than S+, which I assume is the highest rank that you can get in the game. Then there's a new single-player expansion coming to Splatoon 2, which is the first paid DLC to be coming to Splatoon 2 this summer. And it's called Octo Expansion, and essentially you're playing as this character called Agent 8, and you wake up in a subway and you've lost all your memories, so you're going through this subway, kind of figuring out your mission, because you were, I guess, like a secret agent, so you're figuring out your mission, regaining your memories, and yeah, throughout the DLC. Spoiler alert, the mentor that's teaching you everything is the main villain of the game. Prediction. That's my prediction. I'm not even going to play it. I'm just going to predict that. So that's pretty much everything that's been announced, excluding the obvious reveal for Nintendo Switch, for the Nintendo Switch Super Smash Brothers. And like I said before, I'm going to talk about that at a later video. And I think I'm either going to do a huge hour or longer video talking about the possibility of the Smash 4 port again, or a whole new game, because with the trailer we actually did get a hefty loaf of evidence for Smash 5 to be a thing versus a Smash 4 port, which is what seemed to be the most likely. So I'm either going to do two separate videos on basically my analysis of the trailer with the envisionment of a Smash 4 port, and then an analysis on the trailer with the envisionment of just a new Smash. A new Smash title being Smash 5. So with that being said, guys, thank you all for watching. I know that I had a video which was a live stream called Nintendo Direct March 8th, 2018, and it kind of quote unquote blew up. It got more views than any of my other stuff, but that's not actually the Nintendo Direct video. That was kind of like a preparation for it, because I was wanting to live stream it, and then that didn't work, so I just turned off the live stream and it archived it, and then it kept the name of when I was live streaming. So yeah, so if you guys see that video and are like, man, this isn't even Super Smash Bros, this isn't even the Nintendo Direct, this is just Xenoblade gameplay, that's why. It's because I was live streaming and the live stream sucked. So Anyway, guys, again, thank you all for watching. This is Jake, logging out. Peace.